After a heavy storm, a strange ancient coffin was swept up from the Yellow River. It was carved with eerie scripture. My brother took the lead in prying it open. Inside lay a stunningly beautiful female corpse. The villagers rushed forward and stripped every single burial item off her body. By the time Aaron arrived, the female corpse had already been dumped by the roadside. He immediately sensed something was wrong. Walking up to the coffin and taking a glance inside, his face turned pale. "We're screwed! That's a blood coffin used to trap vengeful souls. Whoever opens it dies." Aaron pointed to the four corners of the coffin. They nailed all four corners with corpse sealing spikes. And this scripture carved on the coffin, it's the Great Luo Suppression Sutra. This thing's a death trap. But no one took him seriously. We live along the ancient Yellow River route. Over the centuries, who knows how many things were buried in the riverbed. When floods hit, it's not uncommon for all kinds of stuff to get washed ashore. The year I was born, a flood unearthed two massive iron bulls from the river. No one even figured out what they were. Aaron seemed to go mad. He gathered the woman's body and respectfully returned her to the coffin. Then he knelt, palms together, and began bowing to her over and over. He begged everyone to return what they had taken from the tomb. But after days of flooding, many of the fields and homes were ruined. The villagers had lost everything. The items in that ancient coffin were clearly antiques, easy to sell for cash. Even with Aaron pleading desperately, no one listened. My brother even had him dragged aside, then called a few people over to help push the coffin back into the river. Once the blood coffin hit the water, it didn't float, it sank in a way that was downright creepy. Before long, the entire surface of the river turned a deep, blood-red color. Aaron collapsed to the ground. "It's over." As the whole river turned crimson, I saw panic flicker in everyone's eyes. "Aaron, is there really some kind of curse that turns the river red?" My brother asked with a trembling voice. "People are going to die," Aaron said grimly. "This is a blood coffin. Only those who died a violent, unjust death burning with hatred would be sealed in something like this to calm their spirit." Aaron picked up two of the corpse nails from the ground. These were hammered through her neck. Then they carved scripture into the coffin. That ensures whatever's inside can never reincarnate. You'd only use something this brutal if she'd already taken many lives. But now she's been exposed to daylight's centuries of rage. No coffin can hold her now. The villagers all looked uneasy. Aaron asked who had opened the coffin. They looked at my brother. "Hand it over," Aaron suddenly shouted, his voice sharp. My brother was startled and no longer dared to act tough. He handed over a jade pendant, embroidered shoes, a hairpin, and a few other trinkets. "That's all I've got," he muttered. "Bullshit." Aaron grabbed his arm, twisted it, and fished out a golden nail the length of a chopstick from his pocket. It was engraved with complex runes and had the faces of hideous demons carved all over it. "I knew it. I knew there'd be something like this," Aaron said, glaring at him with hatred. My brother gave a nervous smile. "You want it, take it." I pulled it out of her skull. "You pulled out the soul-binding spike from her crown and you're still breathing?" Aaron was so furious, he slapped my brother across the face. Normally my brother was a troublemaker, but now he looked genuinely terrified. He clutched his face and didn't say a word. Aaron said that whatever was in that coffin must have died with unimaginable hatred, and even after death, caused such chaos that an expert had to use soul-binding nails to trap her in a blood coffin. It was a cruel, eternal punishment. That's why they carved the curse. Blood coffin seals the soul. Break the seal, and you die. My brother's face turned ghostly pale. It can't be that bad, right?" You're gonna get us all killed, Aaron snapped. That night, following Aaron's instructions, my brother slaughtered 10 black dogs. He mixed their blood with corpse oil and lit an eternal lamp at the front door. This kind of ritual would burn away your spiritual merit, but there was no choice. Aaron said it was the only way to hold back the corpse's wrath. He also had my brother light 2 rows of white candles, black dog's blood to block the evil, white candles to send it away. Aaron warned that if any of the candles went out, someone would die. My brother got so scared. He asked me to stay up with him and keep watch. But around midnight, I couldn't fight off the sleep anymore and dozed off. Just before dawn, a rustling sound jolted me awake. I opened my eyes and saw something humanoid crouching in the corner by the front gate, cloaked in a cold, ghostly aura. "Bro?" I called out, trying to keep my voice steady. My brother's head jerked toward me. What I saw nearly drove me insane. He was wearing the flayed, bloody skin of a black dog, crouching on the ground, scooping corpse oil into his mouth like a madman. All the white candles were out. His stomach was swollen to the point of bursting from the oil, and yet a twisted grin curled at his lips. "Something's wrong, Aaron. Something's really wrong." I scrambled to my feet and bolted toward Aaron's house. My brother suddenly stood up and chased after me with that same deranged smile. I was so terrified I could barely breathe. I ran with everything I had. He came after me just as fast, laughing in a high-pitched, girlish voice. He! Help! Aaron! Aaron! I screamed at the top of my lungs. I finally made it to the main road. Up ahead was the river, the same one where we sank the blood coffin. In the distance, I saw something big and bright red pacing back and forth on the riverbank. I froze. Every hair on my body stood on end. That big red figure seemed to realize I was looking at it. It turned to face me. By then, my brother had caught up and stood shoulder to shoulder with me. His grin was still there, his head tilted, eyes boring into mine. "You saw her, didn't you?" I looked up at him, trembling. He leaned in, his ghost white face nearly touching mine. "Stop him!" Aaron shouted as he ran up behind us, holding a soul-binding spike. "Let me pin him down!" His face twisted with malice. It chilled me to the bone. "He's already turned. He's doomed. I have to finish it." My brother saw Aaron rushing toward him and bolted toward the far side of the river. Aaron's bell clanged loudly. I saw my brother stumble, clutching his head and crouching down. "Pin you down!" Aaron kicked him over, raising the soul-binding spike high. He aimed it at the back of my brother's skull. I remembered what Aaron said earlier. Once that spike goes in, there's no reincarnation. My brother would be gone for good. I lunged, knocking Aaron aside and grabbing his bell. "Run, bro! Run!" I shouted. My brother scrambled up, ran across the riverbank, and with a splash jumped into the river. The red figure vanished. "Arg!" Aaron clutched his chest and coughed up a mouthful of blood. His eyes were full of hatred. "Your brother's possessed! If I don't stop him, more people will die!" I shook my head. He's still my brother. Aaron's hands trembled. He pulled out a pack of cigarettes, lit one, and took 2 hard drags before the color started to return to his face. He took a deep breath. "What did you see?" I wasn't sure if he meant the red figure. "What did you see?" he demanded fiercely. "A woman in bright red," I said uneasily. "She crawled out of the river." "Crawled out? How could she crawl out?" Aaron stared at me, his gaze cold enough to chill the bone. By dawn, Aaron and I still hadn't found my brother along the riverbank, but we did see a trail of 3-inch-long footprints, like something had clawed its way out of the water. Aaron stared at the river. "There's definitely something in that water." Aaron's face was dark as night. I figured my brother must have drowned after jumping in. I crouched by the river and couldn't stop myself from crying. Just then, something suddenly floated to the surface. I reached out, and a swollen, pale head bobbed up from the water. The bloated body lay face up in front of me. I screamed and fell back on my butt, then scrambled behind Aaron. "It's my brother. He floated up." "That can't be," Aaron said, surprised. He walked over, snapped off a tree branch, and flipped the body over. After a long pause, he said gravely, "It's the Carter girl." Then he glanced at me. "Go get someone to help." Because someone had died, and with that whole blood coffin mess, people from the village quickly showed up. They pulled Emily Carter's body out of the riverbank filled with onlookers. I didn't dare get close and stood far back. I noticed most of the people who had helped open the coffin and grab the burial goods were all here. They were whispering among themselves. The dead girl was Emily Carter, daughter of the Carter family that ran the grain mill. Yesterday, after my brother opened the coffin, she couldn't resist tearing off a piece of the red collar from the female corpse. "I told you we shouldn't have opened that coffin. Too late for that now. Don't forget there was already trouble last year." "Shh, don't bring that up." Everyone in the village avoided talking about Emily Carter's death. It was like they knew something. Just as I leaned in, trying to hear more clearly, I saw someone waving at me from the riverbank. It was my brother. "Bro," I shouted. "Come here." He stood among the crowd, completely out of place, as if he didn't belong. No one else seemed to see him. Beside him stood a blurry, strikingly red figure of a woman. Smack! Someone slapped me hard across the face. It was Aaron. He forced my mouth open and shoved a copper coin in. The coin burned like hot coal. Before I could react, "Swallow it!" Aaron's face was terrifyingly pale. Scared out of my mind, I gulped it down. Cough, cough. The moment it went down, I choked on a mouthful of water. Looking down, I realized I was in the river, submerged up to my neck in murky, reddish water. Aaron's face was beet red, his lips turning blue. I was choking him, hard enough to make his eyes roll back. I quickly let go. His neck was already bruised, a deep purple. "Aaron, it wasn't me." Aaron said nothing. He caught his breath, then threw me onto the riverbank and slowly climbed up after me. He moved, slowly, looking tense, as if something was pulling at his legs. By the time he made it to the bank, he was drenched in sweat, leaning against a tree, gasping for breath. When I looked back at where my brother had stood, he was gone. Everyone in the village looked at me with suspicion. I hung my head low. My brother was the one who opened the coffin, and now someone had died. They were turning all their resentment toward me. Suddenly, as the villagers carried Emily Carter's body past me, she snapped her eyes open. They were gray and lifeless, full of hate. She grabbed my wrist. Everyone around screamed and dropped the stretcher, bolting in all directions. Aaron rushed over and pried my arm free from Emily Carter's grip. "Who has a red belly band?" he shouted at a few older women in the village. I'll go get one," someone yelled, then ran home and returned with a red belly band. Aaron covered Emily Carter's eyes with it. Only then did he let people carry her away. Died with open eyes, she's not at peace. A wrongful death. What a tragedy. That night, I couldn't sleep, no matter how hard I tried. Around 2 or 3 in the morning, I heard someone knocking at the door. I thought it was Aaron. I walked into the courtyard. Bang, bang, bang! The knocking suddenly grew louder. Through the crack in the door, I saw layer upon layer of shadowy figures, dozens of faces crammed from top to bottom. Luke! Luke! Are you home? It's Emily Carter. I need to talk to you. Open up! Come on! Open the door! I stood frozen in the courtyard. In the door crack, I could see Emily Carter's pale, bloated face. half visible, staring at me. "Open up, Luke! Open the door! We're leaving now. Open up." Besides Emily Carter, there were over a dozen other faces, all pressed against the crack in the door. Every one of them had taken something from the blood coffin. They banged on the door harder and harder, their eyes growing darker, their voices rising. "Why won't you open the door? Why? Come with us." Their dozen or so faces squished together in the narrow door crack, twisted and warped, squirming like a mass of flesh. My whole body went cold. I kept backing away. Just as I turned to run back inside, Luke, it was my brother's voice, cold as ice. I froze. Looking up, I saw his head sticking out from the top of the 10-foot courtyard wall. "Open up. I'm back," he said, his face ghostly white, like it was covered in porcelain glaze. "Luke, your brother's back." His voice was laced with jealousy. "Open the door. Let me in." I looked at those squirming faces piled against the door and shook my head, trembling. My brother's face twisted with rage. "Open it! Let me in! Bang! Bang!" The door shuddered under the pounding. I didn't dare open it. I knew that wasn't my brother anymore. 10 feet tall and his head's just floating over the wall? That's not human. When I didn't move, my brother began to cry. "Luke, please help me. I'm suffering. It's so cold in the river, so dark, I'm scared of the dark, Luke." I covered my ears. "Stop it! Please, just stop!" But his sobs still filtered in, faint and desperate. And it wasn't just him. All the faces outside looked equally grief-stricken. Their soft weeping crawled under my skin. I squeezed my eyes shut. Only when the crying faded did I walk to the door and peek through the crack. I saw my brother leading Emily Carter and the others, one by one, walking slowly toward the river. They kept walking until they disappeared into the night. After hesitating for a moment, I finally opened the door and sprinted toward Aaron's house. As I got close, I saw a tall, skinny man in a black suit standing stiffly at Aaron's doorstep. I thought it was some ghost again and turned to run. "Kid!" The man suddenly called out. His voice was gentle. I don't know why, but hearing it made me stop instinctively. "Help me," he said again. "Help you with what?" I asked. He stood with his back to me, rigid like a wooden statue. Then, with a bitter laugh, he said, "I've been cursed." His words put me on alert right away. "You smell strange. You've seen her, haven't you? Tell me, wasn't that coffin unusual?" He sounded puzzled. "But that shouldn't be. How are you still—" I get it. It's you." His words were disjointed, but I knew exactly who the her he referred to was. "That ancient coffin?" I asked. "A soul-suppressing coffin. The woman inside? She's a revenant, a cultivated spirit of vengeance." "Why cultivate one?" "Because something extraordinary is buried in this river." The way he said such horrifying things so casually made my skin crawl. His body seemed to loosen up a bit as he tried taking a step forward, but with a loud thud, he collapsed to the ground. I rushed over. At his feet was a red string binding both ankles. I wanted to know more secrets about that female corpse. I wanted to know what was hidden in the river. I wanted to save my brother. I found a sharp stone and started digging along the red string. Before long, I hit something hard. When I pulled it out, I found a child-shaped clay figurine, palm-sized, wrapped tightly in red thread. Its eyes appeared to be sewn shut. It was as creepy as could be. And there wasn't just one. I dug up 4 in total. The more I looked at them, the more disturbing they seemed. Even holding them felt heavy and sinister. Why would something like this be buried at Aaron's door? They're sealing objects, the man in the suit said weakly. I turned to see he had stood up. Didn't expect to see child-binding seals still used these days. He brushed dirt off himself, a little embarrassed. Then he took a few steps back, glanced toward Aaron's house, pulled something from his pocket, and handed it to me. "Take this. When the time comes, you'll know what to do." My mind was a complete mess. It felt like I was caught in some massive, sinister web. I looked down at what he'd given me, a translucent cicada shell. "That's a molted cicada. Don't lose it," he said, his voice suddenly serious. I nodded, but when I looked up again, he was gone. That's when I remembered I'd come to find Aaron. Aaron! Aaron! Not bothering to think about what the man had said, I banged on Aaron's door. It wasn't locked. I rushed inside. It was my first time at Aaron's place. The courtyard was empty, filled with a faint scent of incense. "Aaron?" I called softly. No response. I stepped into the house and heard a rhythmic thump, thump, thump coming from the bedroom, like someone slamming into something. I peered through the crack in the door. Aaron wasn't sleeping on the bed. He was standing upright, arms outstretched, hopping around the room. It was like he sensed something and suddenly stopped. He sniffed the air hard, then turned sharply to face me. Our eyes met. His pupils shrank into pinpoints and glowed an eerie green. His fingernails shot out long and sharp. Fangs peeked from his mouth. "Bang, bang, bang," he leapt at me. My scalp felt like it was about to split open. A cold, bloody stench rushed into my face. I grabbed the door handle and slammed it shut. Aaron started crashing into the door from inside, over and over. My heart pounded. I could hear his ragged, guttural breathing on the other side. The room beyond was dim and murky. Suddenly, a faint sliver of dawn slipped through the window. After the third rooster's crow, Aaron finally calmed down. It was quiet for a long time. Just as I loosened my grip on the door and peeked through the crack, bam! A face appeared right in front of me. His skin was bluish-green. His eyes were locked on mine. I screamed and tried to slam the door shut. Aaron gripped the doorframe and shouted, "Who is it?" I stumbled backward in fear. He yanked the door open and glared at me. "Aaron," I stammered. I'd always thought Aaron was a good guy. But just now, hopping around the room, glowing green eyes, razor-sharp fangs, zombie. The words snapped into my mind. "That's it, Aaron's a zombie!" "You saw it, didn't you?" Aaron narrowed his eyes. I shook my head violently. "No, I didn't see anything." He sighed and walked toward me. I instinctively backed away. He looked disappointed. "Don't be scared. It's an old condition." Old condition? What kind of condition? If he said it was sleepwalking, I'd be out the door. "It's corpse energy," Aaron said. "When I was young, I inhaled it by accident inside a tomb. Over time, my limbs got stiff. I've gotten older now, it's harder to suppress. That's why I change when I sleep." "But what if you bite someone?" The words slipped out before I could stop them. Aaron glanced at me. "I won't. I've placed wards at the door. While I sleep, no one can come in, and I can't get out either." I suddenly felt guilty. "Did you bury a few little dolls out front?" He froze, then his face changed. You broke my ward." He rushed out the door. I followed nervously. The hole I dug was still there. The 4 clay dolls were all cracked open. Before Aaron could scold me, I blurted, "It was that tall, skinny guy. He told me to do it." Aaron's expression turned vicious. He grabbed my shoulders. "Tall and skinny? What's his name?" I couldn't breathe from his grip. His eyes burned with hatred. "I don't know. I really don't. I've never seen him before," I cried. "There's no time," Aaron muttered. He let go of me. "It was him. He's the reason I became this half-man, half-corpse thing, and he still won't let me go." He looked at me hard. "Remember, if he gives you anything, don't take it. It'll get you killed. It'll get everyone here killed." I hesitated, thinking about the thing he gave me, the cicada shell. Aaron noticed something off in my expression. "Hand it over," he said, reaching out. "Give it to me." Instinctively, I reached into my pocket and grabbed the shell. "He gave it to you, didn't he?" Aaron looked terrifying. "Give it to me." Something didn't feel right. I backed away. "No." My lie was pathetic. Aaron gave me a cold look, then pried open my hand and froze. I did too. The cicada shell that was just in my hand was gone. Aaron didn't believe it. He searched me again, but found nothing. "Good. Don't take anything from him. He's not a good person." I nodded in agreement. "Aaron! Aaron! Something's happened! At the river!" A panicked voice suddenly rang out. Aaron turned toward it, and right at that moment, the cicada shell reappeared in my palm. I was stunned, and quickly stuffed it back into my pocket. A woman ran up. "Aaron, quick! Come look at the river!" The river had dried up. Just days ago, it was overflowing from the flood. Now, it had stopped flowing completely. In all these decades, no matter how bad the drought, the river had never dried up before. Ever since that ancient coffin was swept ashore, the riverbed had been exposed. The villagers all gathered by the river. The older folks were already kneeling in terror, offering prayers. Bronze relics, iron horses, iron turtles, and clay figurines were scattered across the bottom, things buried along this ancient river path for centuries. But no one dared pick anything up anymore. In the middle of the muddy riverbed, there was an arched hole. The opening wasn't large, but it was dark and ominous, with a whimpering wind blowing out from within. Even from a distance, I broke out in goosebumps. Seeing the dense footprints around the entrance, I choked out, "Aaron, my brother and the others went in there, didn't they?" Aaron held a finger to his lips. I knew there was something in this river. He glanced at me, his gaze cold and unsettling. Then he lit a cigarette, and I realized he wasn't using tobacco leaves, but something more like incense ash. After a deep inhale, Aaron asked, "Do you want to save your brother?" "Yes," I nodded. "Then come with me." Aaron jumped down into the river, and I followed. We waded through soft silt to the mouth of the tunnel. It was bigger than I'd imagined and slanted downward into a long, dark corridor. There was no light at all. From within came faint crying sounds. Aaron stood at the entrance, silent. The weeping grew louder, not just from the tunnel, but from the riverbank as well. I turned to look. At some point, a sickly yellow fog had rolled in over the bank. Everyone's silhouettes were eerily stretched and twisted, spiraling through the air. Hundreds of rotting, yellowed faces floated above, wailing in ghostly cries. "Don't look," Aaron warned. But my mind had stopped functioning. How did it come to this? What happened to my village? Aaron, I screamed in horror. How did they all turn into? Aaron said nothing for a while. Then he stepped into the tunnel. "You want answers? They're in here. She came out once already last year." "Last year?" I muttered, suddenly realizing something terrifying. I'd lost nearly half a year's worth of memories. Staring into the pitch-black tunnel, I called, "Aaron?" "Yeah," he nodded firmly. I followed Aaron inside. The narrow corridor was damp and covered in slimy moss. Stone steps led downward endlessly. Despite the total darkness, Aaron's glowing green eyes guided the way without hesitation. Finally, a faint light appeared ahead. We emerged into a massive, man-made cavern. In the center was a large pool of water, mist rising steadily from its surface. Though we were underground, the walls were studded with glowing fluorite crystals, allowing us to barely see. We circled the pool and continued forward until ritual ropes blocked our path, covered in decaying talismans and faded symbols of yin-yang and the 8 trigrams. Hanging from the overhead beams were rows of corpses, hundreds of them all, villagers. Not just those who'd stolen burial goods, but the entire village. They were all hanged here. The bodies swayed like a forest of flags. Soft, bitter weeping echoed in my ears, full of hatred. Aaron remained expressionless, coldly brushing past the corpses as he walked. I clutched my head in agony. What happened? Are they all dead? Tears poured down my face as Aaron stopped before a towering stone stele, nearly 6 meters tall. 6 characters were carved into it, bestowed by the Emperor Lady Huaijing platform. Aaron's eyes lit up. An imperial decree. Behind the stele stood a Buddha statue, its head bowed. As I approached, I saw its face had been eaten away, nothing but pitted holes. Behind it rose a 5-tiered pagoda, paint flaking from its beams. At the center rested a blood-red coffin that still gleamed as if soaked in fresh blood. I froze. This was a tomb, a centuries-old, underground tomb. As I walked toward the blood coffin, the crumbling Buddha behind me suddenly collapsed. A metallic, bloody stench filled the air as a torrent of blood burst from the coffin, rising so fast that in a blink it had reached our knees. I was swept off my feet. When I managed to stand again and turn, Aaron was gone. "Aaron! Aaron!" I shouted. No response, just a creaking sound from above. Looking up, I saw Aaron's head and neck pierced by 2 long spikes, nailed to the wall. He wasn't dead, not even bleeding. His face twisted in pain, drooling, pupils glowing green. His claws grew long, gripping the nail in his forehead, desperately trying to pull it free. Surrounded by the sea of blood, Aaron was powerless now. Everything depended on me. I remembered the cicada shell the man in the suit gave me. I reached for it only to find I couldn't move. My vision blurred, and from the bloody pool, my brother's face slowly surfaced, mouth agape, as he grabbed my legs. Then came more dead villagers, crawling out of the blood, seizing my arms and legs. I tried to scream, but Emily Carter's pale, bloated hand clamped over my mouth. I couldn't breathe. I was dying. Countless ghastly white hands clutched my body, leaving bruised, purple prints. And from the blood coffin, a beautiful woman began to crawl out. Her eyes hung lifeless, lips blood dark, skin like white porcelain. As she crept toward me, her skin began to peel away. Hatred burned brighter and brighter in her eyes, pure, overwhelming malice. She reached me, her cold breath nearly freezing my nerves. Her fingers stroked my face gently, full of spite, but all I could do was weep. Why was I crying? I didn't know, just a deep sorrow. Pin her down. Aaron had pulled out the 2 spikes and charged with the golden soul nailing spike, stabbing it at her skull. Bang! With a single swipe, she sent Aaron flying into the stele carved with Lady Huaijing platform. "Aaron!" I shouted. Aaron struggled to rise, but pale hands reached up from the blood and dragged him down. The corpse ignored him now. She reached for my chest, 5 razor-sharp fingers slicing open my skin like knives. Just as I thought I'd die, she stopped. A swollen hand grabbed her wrist. "Brother! It was my brother!" His eyes were empty, muttering nonsense, but he held her arm tightly. "Bro," I called. Even dead, he was still trying to protect me. The woman casually grabbed his neck and snapped it. His head lolled to the side. His fingers slipped from her arm. He collapsed into the blood. Watching him die again, I wasn't afraid anymore. "Ah!" I roared, face contorted with rage. Somehow, the cicada shell was in my hand. My palm bled, and the shell glowed blood red. The dead villagers vanished instantly. The shell turned into a glowing red longsword. The woman's face twisted in fear. "Ming-shan," she murmured. I thrust the blade through her, nailing her to the stone stele. She shrieked and flung me aside. But the sword wouldn't budge. Smoke and corpse miasma poured from her body. I crawled up in agony as she lunged at me, screaming, "I won't go! I won't!" Her voice was so shrill it tore at my eardrums. As I fell to my knees, covering my ears, someone silently stood behind her. It was Aaron. Clutching the golden spike, I'd never seen him look so crazed. He raised it high, roared, and drove it straight into her crown. The entire spike sank into her skull. Her screams rattled my skull. Aaron's expression twisted with ecstasy. As he twisted the spike, he bit into her neck, devouring the blue gas that spewed from her. His withered body grew young and strong again, a glow returning to his face, fierce light blazing in his eyes. When the gas was gone, Aaron crushed her skull under his foot. Her body crumbled like porcelain, and the sword fell, turning back into the cicada shell. Aaron walked toward me. I was too scared to speak. "I knew it. She couldn't bear to kill you," Aaron chuckled. "You're the reincarnation of the man who betrayed her," he sneered. "Wasn't in vain that I spared your life, creating a revenant against fate, setting this all up." He touched my forehead. A buzzing filled my skull. Memories came flooding back. I remembered everything. Last year, this river dried up once before. The day after the river dried, a man came to the village. He killed my brother, killed Emily Carter, the carpenter, everyone but me. He hanged them all here, using their resentment to cultivate the 100-year revenant. That man was Aaron. Aaron trapped their souls, made them forget they were dead, made them live on until the revenant was complete. He lied to me. He used me to kill that revenant. Why? Why did you kill so many people? Why me? I lunged at him, but Aaron casually kicked me. I crashed to the ground, unable to get up. Who knows how many ribs I'd broken. He caressed the cracked stone stele, bestowed by the Emperor Lady Huaijing platform. Do you know what that means? Aaron looked at me, mockingly. It was an honor granted by ancient emperors to women of chastity, and this poor girl who guarded her virtue unto death. He pointed to the shattered corpse on the ground. That was her. How many women in this world truly wish to live widowed their whole lives, just for the sake of so-called chastity? Of course she didn't want to. Then, Aaron told me a story about a young mistress from a wealthy family. Shortly after her marriage, her husband died from illness. At that time, noble families competed over how many chastity archways they had erected. Even officials used them as proof of their virtuous governance, so she was forced to remain a widow. But she fell in love with a tutor in the household, and the two planned to elope. On the day they were to meet, he never came. Instead, she was met by malicious people who beat her to death. Later, they claimed she had died for love to preserve her chastity and was granted the imperial honor of Lady Huaijing platform. Her resentment turned her into a vengeful spirit, wiping out the entire Morgan family. Later, a powerful cultivator came through and used the 7-star soul-nailing spikes to seal her inside a coffin, never to reincarnate. That scholar, my past incarnation. And the one who suppressed her with the coffin, the soul spikes, and the great Luo suppression sutra, that was Aaron. Living off corpse energy for over 100 years, Aaron had become half human, half corpse. He needed this revenant to achieve his ascension as a corpse immortal. 100 years! I've waited an entire century! Aaron looked at me with crazed excitement. You may be useless now, but after 3 lifetimes, your soul is still a powerful tonic. He reached out and pulled me toward him through the air, just as he was about to rip out my heart. Crack! Aaron's face split open. His body aged rapidly, hunching over, hair turning white, flesh drying like paper. A woman in bright red emerged from behind him. Aaron screamed in terror. No! How can this be? Behind me, I heard footsteps. The man in the suit walked in, hands in his pockets. He smiled at me. Where's the cicada? I was about to say I'd lost it, but when I opened my hand, it had returned. Looks like it likes you, but it's not yours yet. You can't control it. He took the cicada from my hand. In his grip, it transformed back into a longsword, this time glowing pale green. You? A half-corpse trying to devour a 100-year revenant? He sneered at Aaron. She was already a vicious ghost, slaughtering so many before you sealed her away. And you used the 7-star soul spikes to damn her for eternity. A century of boundless hatred, did you really think you could suppress it? And you fed her with the resentment of over 100 wrongful deaths? He scoffed. Such a revenant, and you thought you could consume it? He stepped up to Aaron. Aaron dropped to his knees. Please save me. You did one thing right. The man said, you couldn't suppress her, but you managed to trap her inside yourself for now. Saves me some effort. As he finished speaking, the cicada's sword in his hand began to hum. In a flash, it extended and pierced through both Aaron and the corpse woman. Green flames burst from the blade, instantly reducing them to ashes. Clang! The golden soul-nailing spike fell to the ground. The man in the suit picked it up. Done. A soul-nailing spike? I asked. He smiled faintly. You underestimated. It's called the dragon-binding spike. Thunder boomed from the cave. The ground trembled beneath me. Damn, it's waking up! He grabbed me, and we ran. At the tunnel's mouth, we saw the stone cavern had split wide open. Through the crack, light glimmered under the water. Looking closely, I saw massive, ancient buildings, palatial structures stretching endlessly, like a vast underwater palace. Among them rested a massive creature, its head and tail unseen. Its immense body lay sprawled across the palace grounds. The man in the suit dragged me out of the cave. As we reached the riverbank, the entire ancient path was engulfed by rising floodwaters. My brother and the villagers' bodies were buried beneath. 3 days later, Jose came to get me. We'll see it again, he said, pointing toward the water.